You are now tuned into the sounds of
Big Nate Sports Talk.
It's on all the time, anytime.
You are now tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the next big thing, the latest up-and-coming sports journalist, your host, Nathan Snell.
I love that. Thank you, Mr. Anthony Handy, for that wonderful introduction. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nathan Snell of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. This is episode 12, season 16 of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. And in this episode, Washington Commanders' 53-man roster for week one of the 2023 NFL season is out, and I have my live reaction. Before I get to that, there's a few things I want to say up front. After this episode was recorded, this episode of the Baltimore Ravens 53-man roster reaction will be recorded as well, and that'll be up by tomorrow, which is Friday. If not, it'll be out Saturday at the latest. It's about that time. You see it. You see it. That's right. College football is back, baby. Maryland Terrapins, let's get it. We get the University. We play the University of Towson Saturday, so I have a Maryland preview of the season as well as game one. Be tuning in for that. We have 1 month as of September 1st of baseball left, so be tuning in for that as we get ready for the playoffs. And we're going to just do a little debrief with the Nationals and the Orioles, and then we're getting some playoff coverage. NFL preview. NFL season is almost upon us. The NFL season opener, Jared Goff versus Patrick Mahomes. Those Detroit Lions and Kansas City Chiefs start off the NFL season. I believe that'll be Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. But you'll see an NFL preview. I'm going to break it down by divisions. I'm going to start working on that this weekend. So be tuning in for some good content on that. The Washington Mystics moving right along. Again, please follow my work on MarylandSportsBlog.com. We're approaching the end of the season very, very quickly. We have about 3-4 games left before we get into the playoffs. And then college basketball, that'll be starting up as well. So just a lot of great content as we are getting ready for the fall. Because as of tomorrow, it'll be September 1st. And then, like I said, it'll be Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and then 2024 will be here. I cannot believe that. Where did the time go? Also in this video, I'll say that for the final thought. But Washington, as we stated in the last episode, finished the preseason 3-0. Good season, preseason for them. The 53-man roster was put out. Shout out to Will Kramer, Sean Spencer, as they gave their reaction on Washington Football Weekly, along with Ablo. Shout out to Abs. For the most part, I will say that when I look at this 53-man roster, there were some surprises, and there were some I wasn't so surprised. Everybody had to make 37 cuts by Tuesday. And I actually liked this process a lot better. But I'm pretty sure these guys were easily conflicted because there was guys who stood out. There were some guys that disappointed, but there's some guys who had a bounce back game. Example, Quan Martin stands out after the game against Baltimore, the first game against Cleveland, and then the game against Cincy. He had 2 good games out of the three preseason games. So little things like that. But officially, their 53-man roster, I was surprised. They were with 2 quarterbacks. Jake Fromm was cut. Wasn't surprised about that. I felt as though he did have a good preseason game, series, excuse me. But for me, I know for a fact that they were going to give Jacoby Brissett the edge. There were some other guys on there. I was actually surprised. Tyler Lawson stood out to me because they were vets. I think were just reserves. And then they had a fullback, Alex Umrah. Mason Brooks was cut. Rashard Wildgoose was cut. And keep in mind, as these cuts are happening, some of these guys can go on waivers. And then once they pass waivers, then they'll re-sign them back to most likely with the practice squad. I would say probably what stood out the most was young man Hodges. He made the team. He spent last year. He was a 2022 undrafted rookie. He was on IR. He struggled in camp with catching the ball. If I remember the stat correctly, I think he ran about 40 routes and was targeted 5 times. And again, in fairness to him, he didn't practice a lot. He didn't practice at all because he was on IR. He's 6'8", 240 pounds, but I wasn't totally surprised I was surprised that Curtis Hodges made the team. When we look at the rest of this 53-man roster, Jaheim Dobson, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, Byron Pringle, Dax Milner, Mitchell Tinsley. I had 6 receivers. I had Tinsley kind of being the odd man out, on my personal opinion, because I watched him. He had a bit of some struggles, in my opinion. But I think the biggest question was the kick return, punt return. That was really interesting. I had 10 offensive linemen. I actually had Lawson making the team, but they had Charles Leonard Jr., Andrew Wiley, Sam Kasumi, Sadiq Charles, Nick Gates, Chris Paul, Ricky Starnberg, Cornelius Lucas, and Trent Scott. Logan Thomas, who I feel like it's time for Washington to move on from him. He's older, and the injuries are creeping up. John Bates, Cole Turner, and Curtis Hodges. And then it was no surprise Antonio Gibson, Chris Rodriguez Jr., and Brian Robinson Jr. were going to make the team. The one thing I noticed about their defense, I will say probably the most surprising one out of all of them, they have 11 defensive ends stay. I really hoped that they would have kept at least 10 of the 11. And actually, I'm going to backtrack just a tad bit. When I look at the offense, for particularly running backs, I couldn't see Washington carrying a 4th running back. I know Jonathan Williams, Jarrett Patterson, and Derek Gore. A guy like Jarrett Patterson could be potentially on the practice squad. Everybody made a strong case to make the team, but I think everybody was confident. As far as receivers, I feel like they're 7 because of Terry McLaurin's week 1 status. And more than likely, I don't think he'll play. If he does, he'll probably just play a hat. I just don't see him playing week 1 because that turf toe is a very serious injury, in my opinion. But I feel like they kept Tinsley because he is out of what he was competing with. His route running was polished, was very polished. He's got good hands, but I don't know. Maybe it's more from looking at from the quarterback position because there were a lot of times I felt like his acceleration, creating separation could be a lot better, in my personal opinion. and then the other guys, Kamir's Allen. I just thought his nail in the coffin was just personally in the Cincy game, because Dax Milne I think showed a lot, but I mean he's not a returner, but he's more like a slot receiver guy. He's very versatile. But I think probably the biggest one that stood out the most was definitely Kazmir Allen, because I think that last game just did him in. As far as the offensive line, like I said, Brandon Daniels, Jared Jones-Smith, and some of their interior line guys. Like I said earlier, Mason Brooks, Tyler Lawson. Brendan Daniels suffered a season-ending rotator cuff injury. So there were signs of potential there. It's interesting with Tyler Lawson. I believe when he was starting in the 8 starts, they went 6-1-1, and I just think that where he plays, they've just have trying to find consistency at that position. But he could potentially come back. But I mean, he is a bit older. I think he's 31, 32 years old. So, and especially when you're coming off another season where you dealt with injuries. So that's tough. And again, I thought who made the team, they went with more of experience. I mean, the rest of those guys like Brooks and Laufenberg, those are developmental projects. They're practice squad guys. And I think that's fair, in my personal opinion. When I look at the defensive line, I thought it was fair. 7 guys, I had all 7 guys making the team. And Andre Jones Jr. and KJ Henry, they definitely surprised the heck out of me. Personally, I thought William Bradley King could have made the team. I could see him being a practice squad candidate if that's possible. We all know Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, and those guys want to make the team. That was no problem. So those 11 guys, I wasn't surprised. There really was some other guys in there. The biggest thing to me is your starters staying healthy. I know Jonathan Allen is dealing with plantar fasciitis. Chase Young is still waiting on his status about his stinger injury. Mathis had that, believes, with a calf injury. So I'm just curious to see what that'll look like as time progresses. So I could see one of those guys that they did cut, like Abdullah Anderson, for example, or Isaiah Mack. They are potentials to probably be ready to be called up week 1. So that's what I took about from it. The biggest one that stood out to me was linebackers. They're rolling with 4 linebackers. I personally think they need to go out there and look for a linebacker, in my opinion. Jamin Davis, Cody Barton, Kalike Hudson, and David Mayo. Mila Effler and 2 other guys were kind of out. I mean, I don't know. They need that's probably the most weakest position I've seen. But I looked at the depth chart, and what could I don't know, and I doubt the waiver wire will help at all. I mean, there were some guys that just didn't pan out. There were some struggles there, and hopefully, as the season progressed, they'll pan out. As far as the DBs and the safeties, I was very surprised with that. They balanced it out 5-5. Kendall Fuller, Emmanuel Forbes, Brandon St. Juste, Christian Holmes, and Danny Johnson, and then Karen Curl, Derek Forrest, Percy Butler, Quan Martin, and Jeremy Reeves. Like I said, Quan Martin, for example, he stuck out because he had 2 good preseason games, in my opinion. I think with Christian Holmes, because we see what he can do on special teams. And he could be also a slot corner, maybe, and playing some safety in there. Again, there are some guys that they cut, like, again, Wild Goose, maybe Nick Wildside the second, maybe Castro Fields. Those, to me, are guys are developments. They could be on the practice squad. The only thing I will say about some of the guys they did cut, like Nick, well, I'll take it back. Well, Nick Whiteside just didn't have the speed, in my opinion, so I'll take that. I'll take him off that list. But they could work with him. It's little things like that, creating separation, knowing zones, different things. It's the little things I think that they're paying attention to. And that's why scouting and coaching is so important. When you look at the other guys, they all had decent preseason games, but there was nothing. They didn't create any separation. And then, for me personally, their special teams, nothing changed. I mean, Joey Sly, I think Michael Badgley, he was cut. Joey Sly is going to be the opening day kicker. Tressway, who I think is one of the best punters in the game right now, and then Cameron Cheeseman. I mean, there was really no competition there. So, I mean, other than that, I thought it was pretty good, this roster. I do think, like I said, out of those positions, linebacker to me is the weakest. They can see what's out there in free agency, maybe get someone on the vet minimum. But I was actually really surprised. I just went with 4 linebackers, just like with the tight ends. And even what they had out there didn't impress me. And Will Kramer and Sean Spencer can say the same thing. So that's my reaction to the 53-man roster. If I had to do it again, I pretty much had the same roster. I mean, I value offensive line, and I went with 10. Personally, I think 9's fine. But 1, I think predicating on health. When you look at this team, it's just predicated on health. And then some guys going on IR. So you gotta look at those things like that. So we'll see. Like I said, the waiver wire is upon us, and then they're probably going to still go out there and make some moves. Now the quarterback position, I'm not too worried about that. So we'll see, because you have you got to have a 16-man practice squad, and then players with, if I remember correctly, it's less than 4 years of experience. So if you play 4 more years, you're an NFL free agent. So before we get into the final thought, we're going to transition into the sponsor of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to dress like you're already famous? You can and you will with Zagnif Apparel.
The following is a presentation of Zagnif Productions, LLC. Introducing Zagnif Apparel. Our comfortable line of leisure wear and athletic wear will have you comfortable and stylish at any occasion. Whether you're at the gym, out shopping, or just relaxing at home. Whether you're an athlete or just want to lay around the house, we've got the perfect outfit for you. Stop by our website today and pick up your favorite pieces. Zagnif Apparel. Dress like you're already famous.
And you most certainly will, with a nice 15% off using your final purchase. Big Nate for 15% off your final purchase. Excuse me, I've said that all wrong. I apologize for that. Thank you for Zagnif Apparel for being a sponsor of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, you can and you will dress like you're famous. We'll be right back. We are back, and we're going to get into the final thought of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Oh my gosh. Sorry about that.
Thoughts are running through my mind, so I just some time to find a minute or two to organize.
Final thought in this episode of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast is one and only Ron Riverboat Rivera. Ron Rivera said some things. Shout out to Sean Spencer, Will Kramer, and Abs already talked about on Washington Football Weekly. They know I was going to talk about this as well. Let me just go ahead and first and foremost, before I read what was said, Ron Rivera, what he's done for this organization, he's changed the culture. If I'm starting an NFL team, that's the guy I want on my coaching staff, or even in the front office, even in the locker room. He is a leader, and he holds his guys accountable. It showed in Carolina. He's as a great person. But sometimes Ron Rivera puts his foot in his mouth. And here is another example of that. Sam Howell happened to be the subject of what he was saying. Basically, he was frustrated. He himself that Sam Howell should have started more last year. And here's the quote. You can ask Stephanie. We all effing talked about was the quarterback and what the quarterback did, who he was. I kept saying F. If I had known this, I would have played him sooner. When you only get so much time to show it, it's hard. I kept thinking, God. But after that game, everything told me about this kid. Gave him the opportunity and see what he does. Why are you coming out now with a comment like that? Sam Howell, 5th round draft pick, took over in week 18 and beat the Dallas Cowboys by 20. He was 11 of 19. I think he threw, if I remember correctly, $169 and 1 touchdown. Threw an interception. Now, let me just give you some for background of the season, because we finished 7-8-1. Okay. Going into that year, it was already kind of, well, you had Ryan Fitzpatrick the year before, injury. They needed stability at quarterback. They traded for Carson Wentz. Now, I have said it, and I will concede the point. Carson Wentz did not exceed expectations here in the nation's capital. I have openly conceded that point. But the point others need to concede, the team itself was not good. We pointed out multiple issues with that offense. With Carson Wentz, yeah, he showed flashes, but it was inconsistent. Personally, for me, Carson, it goes back to when he was in Philadelphia with the injury. But pre-injury, he was MVP. And then when he came back, I just think he just had gave him no confidence. And when the light shone the brightest, yeah, I agree. But also, too, let's keep it real. And you've heard me say this on multiple occasions in these videos, optics, media, the narrative. And I felt like he just did not live up to the expectations. And that's fair. In the same breath, Taylor Heineke, he's limited in what he can do. When he was put out there, he struggled. So it's almost like it doesn't help when you basically are saying, well, I wasn't confident with what I had already. Personally, if you ask me, when Carson suffered that hand injury, he should not have been starting. I would not have put him in that Bear game. I would not have. I would have had Taylor out there. Hell, I would have had Sam. But the issue that I don't like is it's just to me it's bad timing. Because if you remember in the presser, they said, if you lose this game, you're out the playoffs. And he goes, "Are we?" And it doesn't help. It's stuff like this that you like it's simply why. I mean, it comes across as you just didn't feel you should have jumped on the gun sooner, or you had a chance to make some changes, but you did. And if we're being honest, I mean, let's look at this. I don't know if it's giving praise or it's because I feel like it takes a shot at the other guys. I mean, it's a new era in Washington, and you're bringing up this. And on top of that, it doesn't really help when you already came out with comments regarding Eric Bieniemy, and he's coaching too hard. So I just think this was a situation where it's a think before you speak, because now I'm not going to say that puts pressure on Sam, but it's the timing of his comments, and I don't like that. So I don't know, Ron. I respect him, but it just, to me, it doesn't. Those comments, I don't know if it's just giving praise. I don't know what it was, but I mean, Sam Howell is our number one starter. Since Kirk Cousins left, since that was 2018, we've not been consistent at quarterback, and let's see what that looks like. And I think he'll be fine, but I just felt as though the comments that I can see if he said this last year, that makes a difference. But you're coming into preseason and getting ready for week 1, and it's like, yeah, I should have had him out there last year. And personally, with that team last year, no. I would not have. If I would put him out there, I'd put him probably the loss probably against Cleveland, maybe Chicago. No, I wouldn't have done that to him. So I don't know. I just, the comments just were not good, in my opinion. And we'll see how it goes. I have all the confidence in Sam Howell. He'll do fine, but Riverboat Ron, man. That's going to conclude, because I feel I'm going to say something I'm going to regret saying. That's going to conclude this episode of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to this episode. Be tuned for future episodes. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And that's my final thought. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Enjoy the rest of your night. Peace. Stay up.
Won't you stay here with me? And if you want to know how long that's going to be, I'll always be true. And baby, I promise you that I'll be right here for you. No matter the problem, girl, I'll be by your side. 'Cause the love we share can never be denied. Baby, I'll always be true. Baby, I'm right. Baby, I'm right. I'll be right here for you. No matter the problem, baby, I'll be by your side. 'Cause the
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the next big thing, the next up-and-coming sports journalist, Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
I want to thank you, yeah. I want to thank you. Ooh. For all the times you put up with me. Thank you. And you helped me retain my sanity. Thank you. I want to thank you. And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you for everything.